At 2:17 a.m., the knock came soft, unsure, like someone testing whether they still belonged in the house. Claire woke instantly. In the quiet suburbs outside Seattle, nights were usually calm, almost empty. Since her husband passed away 2 years ago, silence had become her constant companion. So when she heard the knock again, her heart tightened with instinct more than fear. She wrapped a sweater around her shoulders and opened the door. Ethan stood there, tall and awkward, a shadow of the boy she first met when he was 12. Now 19, he looked older than his age and younger than his worry. His hair was still damp from a shower, his hoodie sleeves pulled over his hands. He didn't look at her. "Can we talk?" he asked. Claire stepped aside without a word. The kitchen light flicked on, bright and honest. They sat at opposite ends of the table where family dinners once happened, where grief later learned to sit quietly. The clock hummed on the wall. Outside, rain slid down the windows in thin lines. Ethan cleared his throat but didn't speak. Claire didn't rush him. She had learned that silence, when respected, becomes a bridge. Finally, he said, "I don't know who else to ask." That sentence alone told her how heavy this was. She folded her hands and nodded. "I'm here." Ethan took a breath like he was about to jump into deep water. "I think I'm about to do something for the first time," he said, "and I don't want to get it wrong." Claire felt the weight of the word first. In America, it was a word loaded with pressure, expectations, stories people told too loudly and understood too little. She kept her voice steady. "Tell me what you mean." He looked up then, eyes sharp with nerves. "I've never had a real relationship. Not like this. There's a girl. Her name's Maya. She doesn't feel like anyone I've met before." He paused, searching for words that wouldn't embarrass him. "She listens. She asks real questions. She doesn't laugh when I say something stupid." Small smile escaped him before fading. "And that scares me." Claire leaned back slightly, letting him have space. She remembered that feeling the moment when attraction stopped being simple and started being important. "How so?" She asked. "What if I mess it up?" He said quickly, "What if I rush things, or freeze, or think I know what I'm doing when I don't?" His hands clenched together. "Everyone acts like you're supposed to just know. But I don't." The rain grew louder, like the world leaning in. Claire saw not a boy asking about romance, but a young man asking how to step into adulthood without losing himself. "You're not wrong for not knowing," she said. "You're wrong only if you pretend you do." Ethan exhaled slowly. His shoulders dropped just a little. "She invited me to spend the weekend with her friends," he said. "Nothing crazy. Just being together. And I keep thinking this feels like a turning point." Claire studied his face. He was serious, thoughtful, afraid of being careless with something that mattered. "What are you afraid will happen?" she asked. He hesitated. "I'm afraid I'll give too much too fast. Or not enough. I don't want to disappoint her. Or myself." That was the moment Claire understood why he came to her. Not because she was a stepmother, but because she was someone who had loved deeply, lost painfully, and learned slowly. She chose her words carefully. "Your first real connection isn't about proving anything," she said. "It's about learning how to stay honest when emotions get loud." Ethan listened like someone starving for truth. "I won't tell you what to do," Claire continued, "because this isn't my life, but I can help you think." He nodded quickly. "That's all I want." They talked for nearly an hour. Not about rules, not about expectations, but about values. Claire asked questions instead of giving answers. What did he respect about Maya? What made him feel calm around her? What lines did he not want to cross yet? Ethan thought hard before answering. Sometimes he stopped mid-sentence, surprised by his own honesty. "I want to be someone she feels safe with," he said at one point. "Not pressured." Claire smiled gently. "Then you're already ahead of most people." As the clock crept toward 3:30 a.m., the tension in the room softened. Ethan wasn't smiling widely, but he was breathing easier. The fear hadn't vanished, but it had shape now. Before heading to his room, he paused. Thanks for not making this weird, he said. Claire met his eyes. You didn't ask a weird question. You asked a brave one. He nodded and walked away, footsteps lighter than before. Claire stayed at the table long after he left. She thought about how close moments like this were to being misunderstood, how easy it was for silence to become distance, how rare it was for a young man to ask for guidance instead of pretending confidence. She knew one thing for sure. What Ethan needed next wasn't more talk. It was perspective. And as dawn began to soften the sky, Claire made a quiet decision, one that would guide what she did next, and how deeply it would affect them both. That decision would change the story in ways neither of them could see yet. At 6:02 a.m., Claire woke up with a strange sense of urgency. Like something in her chest had been waiting all night to be released. She didn't know why at first, but then she remembered Ethan's words from the night before. He wasn't just confused. He was scared. And he had asked her for help, something most teenagers would never do, especially with a step-parent. The fact that he trusted her enough to ask meant she couldn't ignore what he needed. She got dressed quickly, grabbed her keys, and walked into the kitchen where the coffee maker was still warm. She didn't know what she was going to say to him, but she knew she had to do something real. Ethan appeared at the kitchen doorway a few minutes later, hair messy, eyes tired. He looked like he hadn't slept well. When he saw Claire standing there, he looked surprised, then cautious. "You're up early," he said. Claire didn't answer directly. "I'm going to take you somewhere," she said. Ethan blinked. "Where?" Claire smiled gently. "Somewhere I went when I felt lost. I think you might need it too." Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Okay?" They drove in silence through the quiet streets, the kind of silence that makes you notice everything. The sun was just starting to rise, turning the sky a soft orange. Claire watched Ethan in the rearview mirror, noticing how he kept glancing out the window like he was trying to decide if he was ready for whatever was coming. After a while, they reached a small lake outside the city. It wasn't a famous spot or a place with a big story. It was just calm water and trees and open air. Claire parked the car and led Ethan to a bench facing the lake. The place was empty except for a few early walkers and a couple of birds moving between branches. Claire sat down and waited. Ethan looked at the water, then at her. "Why did you bring me here?" he asked. Claire didn't answer right away. She just let the wind move through her hair. She wanted to say something that mattered, not something that sounded like advice. Finally, she said, "When your dad died, I came here because I didn't know how to think. I didn't know how to breathe. I came here to listen to myself. Sometimes when things feel too loud, you need a place that makes you quiet." Ethan stared at the lake. His jaw was tight. "I don't feel quiet," he admitted. "I feel like my heart is racing all the time." Claire nodded. "That's normal, but you don't have to live in that state." Ethan turned to her. "What if I ruin it?" Claire's voice stayed calm. "Ruin what?" "The relationship? The first real one I might have. What if I mess it up?" Claire looked at him carefully. She wanted to be honest without scaring him more. "You can't ruin a relationship by being human," she said. "You can only ruin it by pretending you're not." Ethan swallowed. "So what should I do?" Claire didn't give him a list. Instead, she asked a question. "What do you want this to be?" Ethan blinked. He looked like he wasn't sure how to answer. He thought for a moment, then said, "I want it to feel like I'm not alone. Like someone sees me." Claire nodded slowly. "That's what love should feel like." Ethan's eyes filled with something that looked like relief and fear at the same time. "But what if I'm not good enough?" Claire's heart tightened. She knew the feeling. She had felt it when she lost her husband, when she was trying to rebuild her life, when she had to step into the role of a mother and a partner again. "You are enough," she said firmly. "But you need to believe it for yourself." Ethan looked away. "I don't know how." Claire leaned forward. "Then we start small. You don't have to solve everything at once. The first step is to be honest. With her, with yourself." Ethan nodded, but his eyes showed he was still struggling. Claire continued, "I'm not going to tell you to act like someone else. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be real. And you have to set boundaries. Ethan frowned. Boundaries. Claire explained, boundaries are what you allow and what you don't. You can be kind without losing yourself. You can care without being taken for granted. Ethan sat quietly, absorbing it. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. She handed it to him. I want you to write down what matters to you. What you won't compromise on. Not because you want to control anything, but because you want to protect yourself. Ethan took the notebook with a look of surprise. Why are you doing this? Claire looked at him with a softness that made his eyes change. Because you asked for help, she said. And because I'm not going to let you figure it out by hurting yourself. Ethan nodded, as if he finally understood that she wasn't judging him. She was trying to help him build something. They stayed there for a while, the lake reflecting the sky. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It felt like understanding. When they drove back home, Ethan was quieter than before, but his posture had changed. He looked like someone carrying a lighter load. Over the next few days, Claire noticed small changes in him. He started speaking more openly at the dinner table. He seemed less tense. He even laughed more, like the kind of laugh that comes when a person stops pretending. One evening, Ethan came into the kitchen holding his phone. He looked nervous again, but different. Not scared, but cautious. I talked to her, he said. Claire's eyes lifted. How did it go? Ethan hesitated, then smiled a little. I told her I didn't want to rush things. I told her I liked her, but I wanted to take it slow. Claire nodded, pleased. And she said she felt the same way, Ethan said. She said she liked that I was honest. She said she didn't want to be a second thought. Claire felt warmth in her chest. That's a good sign. Ethan looked at her, his voice soft. I didn't know I could say those things. Claire smiled. You just needed someone to remind you that you deserve respect. Ethan looked down, then back up. You know what else? She told me she wanted to meet you. Claire blinked, surprised. Me. Ethan nodded. She said she wants to meet the person who helped me think clearly. Claire's throat tightened. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew she couldn't run from this. Not now. Okay, she said, trying to sound casual. We'll meet her. Ethan breathed out a small laugh. I was scared you'd say no. Claire shook her head. I'm not going to say no to something that might help you grow. The night Maya came over, Claire watched them from the doorway, listening to their conversation in the living room. Ethan was calmer than she'd ever seen him. He spoke with confidence, but not arrogance. Maya smiled at him the way she used to like. She was genuinely happy to be near him. Claire felt a sense of pride that was different from what she expected. It wasn't about control. It was about trust. It was about seeing a young man step into his own life. After Maya left, Ethan stood in the kitchen with Claire. Thank you, he said again, for not making things weird, for not judging me. Claire placed a hand on his shoulder. You didn't do anything wrong, she said. You asked for help. That's brave. Ethan looked at her for a moment, like he wanted to say more, but didn't know how. Then he said, I think I'm ready for the next step. Claire smiled. You already took it. And as the night ended, Claire realized that what she had done wasn't what most people would expect from a stepmother. She didn't give him a speech or tell him what to do. She didn't interfere. She didn't push him. She listened. She guided. She helped him find his own strength. And in the quiet of the house, she felt something shift inside her to a sense of healing she hadn't expected. Because sometimes the best way to help someone with their first time is to help them become someone who can handle love the right way.